Welcome back, Giants fans. Another week, another very bad loss for the Giants. Of course, they lost last week. I think it was 44-20. This week, it's 38-11. They lose to the Rams, so combine those scores, and it's not pretty. I can't do math very quickly, so I'm not going to do it. But anyway, rough game here, of course. Couple of big injuries for guys that us as Giants fans are very excited to watch. I would say the three guys that Giants fans are most excited to watch on a week-to-week basis now, although the team stinks, is Andrew Thomas, Kadarius Toney, and Daniel Jones. And two of them got injured, and the other guy didn't play well. So it was a rough game even for guys that were excited to watch, just not even like the team competing, just guys that we want to see play well. Just two of them we didn't get to see, and the other guy, of course, did not have a good game. So I think with this game, it's not the most surprising outcome. I think most fans expected to lose this game, some by a lot, some expected to compete, and I saw a few people that said the Giants are going to win, but you may say that every week. I don't know, but I personally did not expect to really have a close game here. I think I predicted like 33-16, I think my score was, so I thought it'd be kind of bad, but not this bad, so they did worse than I thought they would do, and I don't want to ever say a team is quitting out there. We're still pretty early in the season, the first third of the season basically. And I don't want to say guys are quitting, but like the effort level in that early fourth quarter was not what you'd want to see as a coach. I mean, just going back and watching that game on that play where Cooper Kupp caught the touchdown on the left sideline and ran past a couple guys in our secondary. I mean, I could see McKinney was jogging. You could see, I think Julian Love wasn't really giving a full effort. So I feel like some guys, I know the score was like 31-3 at that point, but I felt like some guys weren't giving the best effort. And I'm not going to say they're quitting on the coach yet or anything like that, but this is not the type of performance you wanted to see in terms of like fighting till the end and giving it your all. I saw some things out there that I was not too encouraged by, and I do want to go over some of those plays in the film review. So hopefully I do get the film this week and we can kind of go back and see like what's going on here. I'll try to interpret like why is this defense letting up so many big plays. And the Giants had a pass rush for the most part in the first quarter. Leonard Williams was like alive in the first quarter. He was making plays and disrupting the game for the Rams offense, and then kind of went away in the second, third, and fourth quarter, from what I saw at least. So the pass rush for the most part wasn't there. There's a lot of just Matthew Stafford had a lot of time to throw in the pocket, which is a big concern of mine coming into this game. Cooper Kupp had a monster performance. That was one of my big concerns as well, because the Giants don't really have a slot cornerback right now. I mean, Darnay Holmes was a guy that, hand up, I had a lot of faith in, and he's been just not really existent. He kind of played today, not a lot. We saw some Jabril Peppers in the slot. We saw some Julian Love in the slot, and Jabril Peppers got toasted twice by Cooper Kupp. No surprise there. Cooper Kupp is, the better player by a good amount, in my opinion. So not really a surprise, but the Giants have a big slot corner issue. And even some of the other guys, the outside corners, I mean, they didn't play an awful game on the outside today, but like the tackling once again has been such an issue. Like, I think Adoree Jackson has not been that great of a tackler so far this year. James Bradbury sometimes has not really shed his blocks too well when wide receivers or tight ends are blocking him on the outside. So it's kind of disappointing. I do expect better out of these guys, and I don't think this is the worst team in the world on paper. I do think for the most part we are pretty poorly coached, which is disappointing because a lot of us, once again, myself included, had very high expectations for Joe Judge entering this year. I knew Jason Garrett probably wasn't going to be good or be much better this year. Patrick Graham, we had a lot of faith in, but so far we have not really seen the mastermind of Patrick Graham come to fruition here in 2021 so far. So it's been very disappointing, but let's kind of go through the notes here of what I wrote down. Start with the offense. Once again, the Giants fall to 1-5 now. They're in the basement of the NFC East. The Eagles and the Washington football team have 2 wins. Dallas got their 5th win, just beat the Patriots in overtime. Dak Prescott does have a calf strain. Don't know the severity of that, but I guess that would definitely benefit the Giants. Not saying we'll catch Dallas, but we'll take anything we can get at this point. Anyway, Andrew Thomas, ankle injury. Kadarius Toney, once again, ankle injury. Don't know the severity. Thomas's play, I could tell right when it happened. You could see sometimes when you're watching the broadcast view, sometimes even at the game, when you see an offensive lineman get rolled up on, and I think Andrew Thomas kind of almost did a split, had a guy go under his right leg, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't look good. I was like, is Andrew Thomas okay? And the camera finally cut to him on the ground, and I was like, well, one of our better players, of course, especially on the offensive line. And, we already lose Nick Gates. We already lose Andrew Thomas. And not to make the injury excuse, I think too many fans right now, especially the ones that love to defend Dave Gettleman here 4 years later, are using the injury excuse way too much. I'll go over that later, of course, but I think we're using that too much as a crutch to kind of figure out why this team is not doing well. Anyway, Kadarius Toney was on his way to a really good game. He had 3 catches for 36 yards in like the first drive for the Giants, not even a completed drive. And then he made a move where he did a quick curl, caught a pass, faked to the outside, made a dude miss. He kind of like faked to the outside and cut back in, made a guy miss. And then as the play came to an end, he was kind of out of bounds, and you could tell he was a bit like he wasn't moving too well, and then all of a sudden you saw him laying down on the sideline, and you're just like, oh my God, because he came into this game with an ankle injury. So it was kind of like, it wasn't the biggest shocker in the world, and like, I'm not going to say, the Giants should have kept him out of the game. No, I mean, if he was healthy enough to play, you put him out there, but you could tell there was some type of re-aggravation there probably, and it sucks because Kadarius Toney is by far, in my opinion, at least for skill positions, the most fun player to watch on the Giants. I mean, we have not seen the same Saquon Barkley. We haven't seen 2018 Saquon in a long time. That one deep pass against the Saints was the closest thing we got to it, and now Saquon's out for, probably another 1 to 3 weeks here if you exclude this week. And, Andrew Thomas, of course, watching offensive linemen for most people is not the most exciting thing. And Daniel Jones, while he does okay in the structure of the offense, Daniel Jones doesn't make a ton of big plays that wow you like some other quarterbacks do. So for us, it felt like Kadarius Toney was like the most fun guy to watch. And obviously, I hope he's okay. I think he's a future asset for this team and a big piece for our future. So I want him to be okay. If they have to sit him for 2 or 3 weeks to get his ankle right, do that. I don't want to further injure this guy and kind of just, possibly make some type of injury worse. I don't think it's worth it. So personally, I hope that Kadarius is okay, and I just want to get him back to 100%. If he has to sit out, then so be it. This team's probably not going to make the playoffs anyway, so I can get behind that. So Daniel Jones's performance, let's go over that real quickly and kind of what I saw. It started out okay, I think. I think before Andrew Thomas got hurt, he was fine. He wasn't having like a fantastic game, but he was moving the offense. They were moving the ball. They got inside the Rams' 10-yard line at one point. They threw that fade to Colin Johnson, which, I think Jones probably should have thrown a more catchable ball. The refs threw a flag for pass interference, and the refs kind of, I think, huddled up and said, wait, that ball was not catchable. So they kind of took back the flag and said no flag. So I think if Daniel Jones threw a catchable ball for Colin Johnson in the corner of the end zone, that flag would have stood and the Giants would have got the ball on the 1-yard line. Anyway, they take the flag back. The Giants get 3, and there were other opportunities in this game where the Giants had a situation where they had a 3rd and 1 in this game. They ran the ball up the middle with Booker. They got stuffed. They had a 4th and 1 very early in this game. I actually took a screenshot of the situation just so you guys can know what play I'm talking about. So the Giants were up 3-0. Late in the first quarter, 2 minutes and 22 seconds left in the first quarter, 4th and 1 on the Giants' own 42-yard line. So you're probably thinking you're in your own territory. You probably should punt that in most cases, but I was actually fine for Joe Judge going for it. I like aggressive coaches. I'm fine with that. There are coaches around the league and some good ones that are very aggressive, and I don't think this is the most egregious 4th down call. There are more of the old school people that are like, pin them down in their own 20 or in their own 10 and make the defense work, but I don't trust our defense, and I don't blame Joe Judge for thinking the same way. So the Giants had a 4th and 1 on their own 42 in the first quarter. They go for it. Daniel Jones sneaks it. They don't get it. They get stuffed at the line. So they turn the ball over in their own territory. But it was kind of near midfield, so it wasn't the worst turnover in the world once again. But they had some missed opportunities on offense is what I'm trying to get at. And Daniel Jones had 3 interceptions and 1 lost fumble. The lost fumble I can't blame him for. I think he was going back to pass, and by the time he was back here, guy stripped his hand basically, and the ball was loose. I forget whose fault that one was. I think Matt Parrott let up one, and then Nate Solder let up one. It's actually the first play of the game, Nate Solder. So first play of the game, 14 minutes and 50 seconds left in the first quarter here after the kickoff, and Nate Solder lets up a pressure to Leonard Floyd. It's kind of an odd play because I felt like Nate Solder was in good position. He kind of had his shoulders square with Leonard Floyd, and then Floyd kind of just ran around him because obviously he's a lot faster than Nate Solder, a lot more nimble on his feet. He got to Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones fumbled the ball. I guess did not see the rush coming. I forget if Jones was throwing as he was hit. I honestly forget, but I'll go back and look at that. He probably was, honestly. And then there was the one where Andrew Thomas, of course, was out of the game, and then Matt Peart came in at left tackle, led up a pressure to, I forget, it might have been Terrell Lewis, honestly, of the Rams, and they forced another fumble. That one they lost. So there was 3 interceptions and 1 lost fumble. So 4 total turnovers that go to Daniel Jones' name, which sucks because he was doing so well with not turning the ball over. And I do think that you can really put 2 of these interceptions on Daniel Jones. One of them I'm not going to put on him because Sterling Shepard just slipped out of his break. It probably would have been a completion, but Shepard slipped out of his break. And, of course, he wasn't there to catch it, and the defender was right there to make the interception. So that was not what you want to see. Shepard was visibly frustrated with himself on the sideline. So I'm not going to sit here and blame Daniel Jones for that interception. Unfair to him, I think, for the most part. So not his fault. But the other 2 were ones that I kind of have a complaint about. So there was one where Taylor Rapp was kind of playing in the box. Taylor Rapp's a safety for the Rams. He was kind of playing in the box, and he kind of just saw Daniel Jones's eyes, and he just undercut the pass, and took it back. And we were close to our own territory. The Giants were on their own 20-yard line at that point, so it was a very rough spot for an interception. I think after that first interception, it made it a 14-3 Rams game after that. So that's kind of where the game turned, in my opinion. But yeah, that was a bad interception. And the other one I'm trying to think about now, so there was 2. There was that one. Then he had one where he was trying to throw the ball to the flat, and then Taylor Rapp once again intercepted that pass, undercutting it. So there was 2 balls that Jones threw that just were horrible decisions, in my opinion. And listen, guys, I understand that Daniel Jones is not in an ideal situation right now. It's a crappy situation where his running back's out, his left tackle's out, his wide receiver 1 is out, his play caller stinks. I get all that stuff. And his offensive line, for the most part, is just awful. So I understand all that when saying this, but him having his offensive line and his top wide receiver and his running back out should not force him to make a decision that bad. That's just a mental error. You can't throw a ball where you have a guy who's basically playing underneath and is watching your eyes and undercuts the ball and intercepts it. That's more on the quarterback, in my opinion. Of course, Daniel Jones probably would have had a better overall game if his guys were healthy, but at the same time, I can't really give an excuse as to why Daniel Jones threw those terrible interceptions to Taylor Rapp, who had 2 of them in this game. So those 2 picks were bad. The one where Shepard fell, I can't blame him for, and then the fumble wasn't really his fault either. But I do think 2 of those interceptions you can really squarely put on Daniel Jones for making a bad decision. Maybe he was pressing because the Giants were down by so many points, maybe because the offensive line was letting up pressure. But I do remember specifically on one of those interceptions, the line was actually holding up very well. So, I mean, one of them was definitely on Daniel Jones. But I do think 2 of them, in my opinion, were on Jones. So, once again, not the best situation for a quarterback, but I have to be fair and honest. I think he probably should have tried to go elsewhere with that ball. So, anyway, Nate Solder I talked about. Matt Peart I talked about. He allowed a sack and a fumble in this game. Devontae Booker filling in for Saquon Barkley kind of went the way I expected it. I think I said in the pregame video for this game, I was like, I expect more of a 13 for 36 game from Devontae Booker. He had a 12 for 41, so close enough. Same crap. Also added 4 for 28 through the air. That's my birthday, 4/28. But anyway, 4 for 28 in the air. So Devontae Booker had an okay game. It wasn't the best, but the Giants actually were running the ball pretty well in the first quarter. Booker had a really nice run for about 14, 15 yards. He was dragging guys for an extra 5 or 6 yards in the first quarter. Had a couple of nice runs, honestly, on that first drive. And then, of course, the game script kind of got away because, of course, when you're down 21-3, 28-3, it's hard to run the ball as much because you want to get back in the game via the pass. You don't want to burn the clock by running the ball. So the game script did not match up well for the Giants running the ball, and that's kind of why I had my fears about Devontae Booker having an efficient game, and my fears kind of came to life there with that one. But Devontae Booker looked fine. He wasn't awful. I went over the 4th and 1 call in the first quarter. Let's get to the defense now. So the defense allowed 365 total yards. Once again, the Rams offense is unbelievable. Matthew Stafford, if he continues to play like this, will be in the MVP conversation for sure, especially if the Rams have a good record the rest of the way. So it's not like this is something I did not expect. Our defense has been very disappointing so far this year. Cooper Kupp, once again, 9 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Giants have a big slot corner problem. Talked about that before, so that was one of my biggest fears coming into this game. And Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, although they played together for 5 games now, have such a great connection. And against a Giants team that doesn't have a slot corner, it worked out very well for them, of course. So Leonard Williams showed up, had 2 sacks in the first quarter. I think I talked about that earlier. Kind of went away in the second half, obviously, like most of the defense. Tate Crowder let up a touchdown before halftime. This is something the Giants defense does on a weekly basis. They let up touchdowns right before the half. I feel like they've literally done it in every game so far this year. But Tate Crowder, who you would think, because Tate Crowder was a former running back, remember, that he would be more of a better player in pass coverage. It has not really been that way so far. I think he was one-on-one with Darrell Henderson, the running back for the Rams. It might have been a wheel route or maybe just like a straight 9 route, and he beat him for a touchdown on the left sideline. So not what you want to see. It was not really a great effort by Tate Crowder there. The Rams went on a 28-0 run in the second quarter. So as I said, the Giants go up 3-0 in this game. I'm like, okay, like maybe we compete this game. Like maybe we can hold them to a low score. The defense can play well, and maybe the Giants offense can do enough to put up near 20 points in this game. But it really came down to the defense and how they would play. So I'm thinking like, okay, we're up 3-0. It's like late in the first quarter. We're doing okay here, and then the floodgates open here in the second quarter. Of course, the Rams, they get a touchdown. They get the fumble recovery, and then they get a touchdown later. They had the interception and a touchdown. Like, it was just so much crap went wrong. The 4th and 1 the Giants did not convert led to a touchdown. So a lot of stuff that went wrong on offense went to the defense. I'm not here to make excuses for the Giants defense. They suck. But a lot of like what happened with the offense, with the turnovers and not getting the 4th down, kind of led to the Rams getting better field position and scoring quicker. So I'm not going to say like, oh, the defense, like, it's all the offense's fault. No, like they both played like crap, both sides of the ball. So I don't want to like make excuses here. But yeah, the Rams go on a 28-0 run. It was 28-3 at halftime. I'm thinking of that Falcons and Patriots game. Can we make a comeback? Of course, it never happened, but it always goes through my head when I think of 28-3. Xavier McKinney had 2 interceptions in this game. That was nice to see. McKinney had a nice one. I mean, one of them kind of just went right to him. The other one, though, was kind of a nice play where I think Stafford kind of just threw a ball over someone. He had to make a very tough catch and keeping the ball off the ground. So it was a nice play by McKinney. I don't know how McKinney played for the rest of the game. He showed up sometimes, but I feel like at some points he took some bad angles and maybe missed a couple tackles. So I'll go back and look once again. But McKinney at least made an impact with turning the ball over, so I like to see that, especially from a young safety who is a second-round pick and a guy that I have a lot of high hopes for coming into this year. Oh, look, Des Bryant's on an Uber Eats commercial. That's pretty funny. I think that's Des Bryant. Anyway, so tackling in the secondary is poor. Adoree Jackson has had problems for a while, even going back to the Saints game where he had a lot of problems tackling Taysom Hill, a quarterback, once again. So he's had problems. Julian Love has had problems. And, Julian Love now has to play more snaps, I feel like. The Giants are kind of like just looking for whatever in the slot on defense, and they're trying to see and throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and they're putting Love on the field a lot, and he has not really produced so far from a tackling standpoint, in my opinion. So taking bad angles, I feel like Logan Ryan didn't show up too much in this game. Jabril Peppers, once again, you expect more from, wasn't good in coverage. James Bradbury, I kind of talked about before, not being the best tackler. I just feel like these guys are not shedding their blocks well enough, and they're not making the best efforts when trying to tackle the ball carrier. It's just, I don't know if it's an effort thing and guys quitting, because like we saw like back in 2017 when this team really started to go south, it was a lot of the secondary was starting to quit, whether it was Eli Apple or like DRC got suspended one game for something, and it was, more of an off-field thing, I think. I don't know. But I don't want to think that's going to happen again here. I feel like the culture is better here, but there's only, your culture can only take you so far. In my opinion, at least, there's 2 cultures in sports, winning culture and losing culture, and we know what the Giants are. Basically, it's very much a losing culture here for the Giants, and I feel like you can put the best guys in the locker room, the best 53 guys in the sport. Eventually, all that losing is going to just build up, and guys are going to start pointing fingers and not really giving their all on certain plays, and it gets ugly when you lose a lot of games. Like, no one wants to be there. I've heard former players before say how miserable it is to be in a locker room where your team is just awful, where you're a 3-13 team, a 4-12 team. Like, I've heard former players just talk about how miserable that atmosphere is, coming to work every day and knowing that your season's going to be over, and like guys don't want to be there, and it's awful. Like winning cures all. Like, that's, I don't know. It's just, in my opinion, winning cures all. I think winning brings culture, but anyway, that's my opinion. So yeah, the angles and the recognition by the linebackers was just not good in this game whatsoever. So many plays where like the Rams would do like a misdirection, and then Reggie Ragland or Tate Crowder would run the wrong way, and then the ball would be over there, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? So it was frustrating. I feel like Ragland and Carter did not play well in this game, really. So once again, I want to go back and watch like the actual coach's film and say like what went wrong here, but just watching the game on TV, just so much went wrong on defense, really. So it's hard to sit here and be like, yeah, like that guy played well, that guy played well. I think as a unit, most of the defense sucked. Once again, Leonard Williams had a really good first quarter, but just nothing really happened after that. Stafford had all the time in the world in the second, third quarter to make passes, and then they brought in that guy, John Wolford, in the fourth quarter as quarterback. He was not good, thank God. So the score could have been worse if they kept Stafford in. But in general, now we'll get some of the general notes here. So how far are we into this video? 19-minute video. All right, not too bad. But anyway, in my opinion, guys, I think Dave Gettleman has to go. Now, obviously, I'm not the biggest Gettleman guy, but as a fan, I try to be fair to everybody. I think what I've said about Gettleman was his 2018 and 2019 off seasons were horrendous and really set the Giants back. Then 2020 happened, and they made smarter signings. They worked on fixing their secondary. At least we thought. The secondary was better last year, but they made some smart signings like James Bradbury and Blake Martinez for last year at least worked out very well. They signed like Kyler Fackrell and Cam Fleming, guys like that. And the offseason started looking better. They drafted Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney, and I was like, okay, we're building something here. Matt Parrott was a nice developmental project. I was a big fan of Gettleman's 2020 offseason. I will say I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it now because it's not looking as good. But and then 2021's offseason happened where the Giants went out and spent a ton of money because the Giants now were in year 3 of Daniel Jones, and they kind of were in a position where they had to compete because your quarterback's only on a rookie contract once. You get 4 or 5 years of a quarterback's rookie contract, and the Giants had to take advantage of having Daniel Jones on a rookie contract. The Giants, of course, in Daniel Jones' first 2 years did not put a good enough team around him to win. The 2019 Giants were awful. They were a 4-win team. And then last year's team almost made the playoffs, but they were a 6-10 team, so they weren't that great of a team. This past offseason in 2021, Dave Gettleman, Joe Judge, everyone else got together and said, hey, guys, this is the year we got to go for it and go all in. So the Giants created all this cap space. They were pushing money back, and that, of course, will have its future ramifications because the Giants are just pushing money down the road, and there's going to be some dead cap in the future, and it's going to be a whole, whatever. It's for the future, though, but it's not the best cap situation right now. But just pushing money down the line and finding a way to fit in Leonard Williams' contract and Kenny Galladay's contract and even signing Dory Jackson's contract, getting Kyle Rudolph and Devontae Booker and all these guys, and it has not worked out so far. I don't know how else to say it. This team, I think, had flaws before the injuries happened, of course. I think the Giants were like really 0-3 they were like 1-3, I think, before the injuries really started to hit them. So it's not like I can blame the injuries entirely. They've had Daniel Jones the entire season except for 2 quarters, I believe, or 2.5 quarters. So they've had their franchise quarterback, at least, for those that think we have a franchise quarterback, Daniel Jones has been playing in most of these games. They had Barkley the first 3.5 games or so, or first 4 games, I should say. Like they've had most of their guys, and Andrew Thomas up until week number 4, I believe, was healthy. So they still had their guys, and they were still losing games. Blake Martinez was there the first 3 weeks. I think Blake Martinez played the first 2.5 games, and they still started 0-3. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, they're only losing because of the injuries. I feel like a lot of people, especially people that want to defend Gettleman, which I don't know how you do anymore, but I feel like people that want to defend Gettleman are like, well, the Giants are very injured. It's not really his fault. I mean, sure, you can't blame the GM for injuries. I'm not going to go there, but some of the guys he brought in, I mean, like Kenny Galladay specifically, and I was all for the Kenny Galladay signing, but I'm just saying, like, he was very injured last year, so there should not be a shock that Kenny Galladay is injured once again. Kadarius Toney was injured in college a couple times. It should not be a shocker that Kadarius Toney's injured. Now, there's been a couple of guys that have been healthy for the most part, like Blake Martinez is now out. Even Andrew Thomas, I feel like in college wasn't really injured at all. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember hearing anything about Andrew Thomas's injury history. Sometimes you get unlucky, but like even drafting Saquon Barkley second overall, part of the problem with that is that running backs are the most frequently injured position in football. Like those guys take a beating week in and week out, and of course Saquon Barkley was a generational talent coming out of Penn State, but we also had to realize that injuries are very likely impossible for a running back. You could say that about any position, but just looking at which positions get hurt the most, running back is near the top and probably the top in positions that get hurt the most. So like while I can't sit here and say, oh, it's all Dave Gettleman's fault that guys get injured, at the same time, there is some partial blame that has to go his way for some of the guys he's brought in here and taking the running back that early and whatnot. So, I'm not going to be like a complete jerk and say, oh, it's your fault, but like there still is partial blame for that and the way the Giants built their team. But I think coming into this year, Vegas had the Giants as a 7-win team. And I'm not saying Vegas is always right. I'm sure Knicks fans will be in the comments saying, well, hey, the Knicks were projected 22 wins, and they had like 40, whatever it was, 43 or whatever the hell the Knicks had last year. So Vegas gets stuff wrong here and there. I completely get that. But the Giants coming into this year were a 7-win team, according to Vegas, for a reason. And if they get to 7 wins at this point, that would be fantastic. They'd probably have to go over 500 the rest of the way. But at the same time, like, this is not a team that was expected to be great by the general public. Like, as Giants fans, we kind of live in this circle, whether it's on Giants Twitter or different YouTube channels, and we're all thinking like, hey, the Giants might be a 10, 11 win team. But in reality, the 31 other fan bases out there and the other people that cover the NFL were like, the Giants are, they're okay. They're not that great. Like, I think most of the people that really are honest about teams, and because you want to say every team's good. You don't want to have any blowback from fan bases. Even I get nervous talking poorly about the Giants sometimes because some people do not like when you speak poorly about their own teams. And I'm a Giants fan myself, but I'm just more honest and willing to say how it is than most people are. Like, I don't try to sugarcoat things. I like to be brutally honest and tell it how it is. Like, in my personal life, I like people that tell me how it is. I don't feel like, having people lie to me and whatnot, making things sound good. That's just the way I am. That's kind of my approach. But even I expected the Giants to be an 8-win team this year. I had the Giants down for 8 and 9. I did the schedule video. I had them for 8 wins. And I was thinking, like, am I being too tough on them? Like, maybe I think they might get over 8 wins. And then they start 0-3, and I'm like, oh, this is why. Like, this is why I don't have the crazy high expectations as a Giants fan. Like, they disappoint us year after year, and the team had flaws coming into this year. Like, guys, they had one of the worst ranked offensive lines coming into this year. They had a big question at pass rusher outside of Leonard Williams, who once again was not probably going to replicate an 11.5 sack season. So there was 2 big question marks right there. And the other question mark was, can their weapons stay healthy? Can Kenny Golladay play a full season? Can Saquon Barkley play a full season? Can Sterling Shepard play a full season? And so far, none of them have. Like, all those guys have missed games so far. Can Kyle Rudolph come back and look like the old Kyle Rudolph? No, he looks terrible. Can Evan Engram make an impact? No, he looks bad. So there's a lot of questions coming into this year that, it was right to have that concern. Like, I don't think you're like a bad fan or a fake fan if you have concerns about your team. I had concerns about the offensive line and the pass rush and staying healthy. It's like only logical. And especially defensive regression. I think a lot of fans coming into this year were like, man, we added people to this defense. We might be even better, which is fair. You have every right to think that. But we also have to realize that defensive regression is real. The Giants had at least a handful, I feel like, of games last year against backup quarterbacks, whether it was like the Bengals backup or whoever else we played. We played a couple Washington backups, whether it was like, who was the guy? Brandon Allen, I think. Not Brandon. Was it Brandon Allen? I forget the guy's name. Brandon Allen and Alex Smith. Like, we had a handful of pretty easy games against backup quarterbacks last year, and that kind of, I guess, inflated some of the numbers. But the Giants defense definitely had their flaws, and I feel like a lot of it comes down to them not getting any pressure. I'm sure that obviously they're allowing too many big plays right now, and their red zone defense has been, I feel like, not the worst in the world, but at least to start the year. Recently it's been bad, especially against Dallas and the Rams here, but I feel like they were doing a pretty good job in the red zone on defense. But now it's like they're just awful, like especially the past couple games here. Dallas has been scoring in the red zone against us, the Rams have, of course, and there's just not many positives when it comes to this Giants defense anymore. I don't know what good I can say. Obviously, not having Blake Martinez sucks, and it's a big loss for this team, but Blake Martinez should not be the difference between this being a top 15 defense and a bottom 5 defense in football. It really should not be that much of a impact for us. It's not like we're losing prime Darrelle Revis or something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's disappointing, and I do believe the Giants have to win 2 of their next 3 if they want to actually make the playoffs. Of course, Dallas right now is 5-1, and as I mentioned before, the Giants' schedule kind of lightens up in the second half. I'm not going to expect them to go on this magical run here and finish with 9 or 10 wins, but the Giants the next 2 out of 3 weeks, they play the Panthers next week, who are just kind of struggling right now. They had a terrific comeback today, but lost in overtime to the Vikings, but they have now lost 3 in a row, I believe, after starting off 3-0. So we get the Panthers next week, who are struggling. Christian McCaffrey's on IR. That's a winnable game. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to win that game, but it is a winnable game. The Panthers are not that much better, I feel like. I mean, we'll see. Then they play Kansas City at Kansas City. That's a tough game. I'm not going to act like we're going to win that one either. Maybe Patrick Mahomes takes the night off. We'll see. But anyway, Then they play the Raiders right before their bye week. So the next 2 out of 3 games, I feel like there are 2 winnable games in there. The Raiders came back with a new head coach today, of course, after the whole John Gruden thing, but they looked good. They beat the Broncos pretty badly. I think it was like a 2-score win for them at one point. So the Raiders look good today. Derek Carr's having a good season for the most part. Their defense has surprised people, but in my opinion, for the Giants to actually make some type of noise this year in a positive way, they have to beat the Panthers and have to beat the Raiders. I'm not going to sit here and expect to beat the Chiefs. That would be kind of idiotic of me, but you play the games for a reason. We'll see what happens on that. I think it's a Monday night game, but yeah. So in my opinion, they got to win 2 out of 3 and get to that mark of 3-6, and then in the second half they get teams like the Eagles and the Dolphins, who are really struggling. The Chargers, I mean, they're playing them at LA. That's tough. But they get the Cowboys at home, the Eagles once again, the Bears and Washington. If they go on a big streak here in November and December, maybe they get to 8 wins or something, 9 wins if we're lucky, and somehow get into the playoffs. Like, I don't want to give up on the season yet. I don't want to be that guy that completely gives up yet. I hate being that type of fan, especially on October 17th. The season's not even close to over, so I don't want to be that guy. But if you're a fan that wants to give up on the year and you're done, I don't blame you. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a bad fan. Like, I don't blame you. The Giants are showing no life, and there's no reason to believe things will get that much better other than the schedule kind of lightening up, I should say. But it's not like the Giants have an automatic W on their schedule going forward. They have to earn these victories. These are NFL teams. People get kind of upset sometimes when you say that's a winnable game, but the reality is, like, we have some games on our schedule that we're probably not going to win. The Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Chargers, I don't see the Giants winning those games. This was another one, the Rams. I did not expect them to win that one. So coming into the year, there were like 4 automatic losses in my opinion. We have one of them out the way. There are still 3 upcoming, but there are, I think, 11 games left now, or maybe 10, 11, whatever the hell the number is. But there's 6, 7 winnable games coming up, and the Giants have to win 6 or 7 of those games. They can't afford to lose a game where they're close in talent to their opponents. So they have to be pretty flawless going forward. Don't know if they can do it. I don't have faith in it, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to watch every game. I don't give up on the Giants. I'm not going to give up on their season. I'm still going to watch every minute like an idiot, but hopefully they put out a good enough product on the field. But speaking of that, how does John Mara fix this? That might be for a future video. I wish there was a quick answer. I mean, there's still 11 games or whatever it is to find out who Daniel Jones is, because that's a big part of it, guys. Like, I don't want to sit here and crap on Daniel Jones because he was in such a tough situation today, of course, but I try to be fair because there's other quarterbacks that are in situations that are not good and they still find a way to play well. So I'm not saying it was impossible for Daniel Jones to play well, but the odds were against him because of all the injuries and the situation he's in. So going forward, hopefully the Giants get pretty healthy on offense. Like, Shepard's back now. They'll probably get Slayton back soon. I'm sure Tony will be back at some point. Galladay will be back at some point. Andrew Thomas will see the severity of his injury, but he probably will be back at some point. Like, hopefully at some point this year, the Giants can get their offense back for at least 2 months and see the final 8 games or so and find out who Daniel Jones really is. Because so far, guys, if the season ended today, I can't sit here and definitively say that Daniel Jones is 100% our guy going forward. I have no idea. If a new GM comes in and even a new head coach, if they want to move on from Judge, it's a very good chance they have a new quarterback next year. So, there's no ties to Daniel Jones at that point. So, I'm not saying the Giants would be so foolish for moving on from Daniel Jones, because so far, I personally have not seen enough from Daniel Jones to make me feel he's 100% a franchise quarterback. There's still a lot more I have to see, but luckily for us, there's 11 games left. So, hopefully we get to see what happens with him, but I just feel like we have to see more. So, once again, I don't think that makes you a bad fan, once again, to want to see more from your young quarterback. Daniel Jones has had too many games of just not doing enough, I feel like, and this is one of them, of course, not one of his better games. But anyway, with John Mara, I mean, look, I don't know who's going to hire at GM. I think Gettleman's pretty much gone at this point. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm hoping soon. I think some fans are like, what's the point of firing Gettleman? It's like, it's not going to change anything. But my thing is, you would rather get a head start on your GM search, to see who the next guy is potentially. Of course, you can't interview guys from other teams, I believe. I don't think that's how it works. You have to wait till the season's over, for the regular season. And sometimes you can interview guys during the playoff bye week if that GM's team has a bye. So it's tough to understand it all. But still, I would rather get a head start on the GM search and, just promote Kevin Abrams or what's the O'Brien guy's name? The guy we got from the Lions, something O'Brien. Promote him for, as the interim GM, and see if he can get some value back for some of these guys we have, the veterans, like, trade James Bradbury, try to get like a third or fourth round pick back, trade Jabril Peppers and try to get a fifth round back, try to get a fifth or sixth for Evan Engram or something. Like, try to get something from these guys that may not be here by the time the Giants are competitive again, because I don't know about you guys, I'm not expecting the Giants to be a competitive team. We'll see how much, I don't want to say it now because like I just have a hard time believing the Giants will be like Super Bowl contenders by next year. I feel like we're closer to a rebuild again than being a Super Bowl contender. So I know it's like kind of crappy to say that, of course, but like there's nothing much I'm seeing that's going to make me optimistic right now. So that's how it is for me. But in my opinion, you fire Gettleman now, get an interim GM, try to get some assets for the guys you have on your roster right now, and get a head start on your next GM search. I don't see the downside in that. I feel like keeping Gettleman here doesn't do us much good. I know Gettleman and Mara probably have a relationship, and John Mara would never do that to his friend, but it's happened before, back with Jerry Reese in 2017. So I guess things will have to get really bad for that to happen, but I guess there's a world where, like, if they lose before the bye week to the Raiders, like let's say the Giants win one of their next three, or even go 0-3 against the Panthers, Panthers, Chiefs, and the Raiders. Let's say they go 0-3 and they go into their bye at 1-8. Like, I don't know how it's feasible to keep Dave Gettleman at that point. I really don't. So there's a chance that could happen. If you want the whole thing to blow up, then I guess root for 3 losses the next 3 weeks. But I'm still in a position where I want to win. I feel like there is a chance where some type of magic happens, and maybe they make a run here in November, December, but I'm probably a fool for even thinking that's a possibility. But that's part of being a fan, is kind of being a fool sometimes. Anyway, that'll do it pretty much. I don't really have much else to say. It was a crappy game. Very long review here, 36 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll try to have a film review of what happened on defense in this Rams game. A lot of breakdowns and just guys not giving full effort, in my opinion. So we'll go over that in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys next time.